My mic up super high.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Tracy Show. I am Tracy. I actually have a guest today. I have a guest today. It's been a month. I want to thank everybody that's been so patient with me while I went through some random topics, but I do have a guest here today. We're going to get to her in a second. Let her reintroduce herself because she's been a guest before. But I have some bills I have to pay, so we're going to quickly pay them and get to our interview as quickly as possible. First of all, subscribe to this page. There is a red button somewhere around there. If you're not a subscriber, it'll say subscribe. So hit that subscribe button to please support me on Patreon, like me on Facebook, join us on Discord. You can follow us at Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. And for some of you, I know that you are watching us live on my website, which you can also watch our interviews, TRACYMedia This interview should be live on there. I made sure I linked it, so you should be able to watch from there. Again, thank you, ma'am, for coming. You can introduce yourself, and we'll just start from there. And you are on mute. There you
Yep.
go.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I am running for President of the United States in 2024. I started my candidacy roughly last year. It was pretty much a soft launch, and obviously, there have been more candidates that have thrown their hat into the ring in these past couple of weeks, but I'm definitely still in the running. I'm running as an independent under my own party, the Redemption Party. So definitely please look us up. It's at www.redemption-party.com. We are looking for candidates at the local, state, and federal level. And currently, we have a few candidates that will be added to our ticket. They're local candidates. So we have a chairman. And yeah, we're just moving and going strong. So thank you for having me.
Oh, no. Thank you for coming back. I know it was like last minute that I asked you. I got a ton of things I got to get to, but normally this is the part where I say type in your questions. But we already have a question. So Parker wants to know. He states, "Can you please ask Ashaki what she means in her platform when it says we need to close the border for a minimum of 10 years and deport every single illegal citizen and their children?"
Okay. That's exactly what that means. But to further that conversation, the border needs to be closed for a minimum of 10 years so that individuals who've already applied for citizenship can finish out their applications and actually be confirmed as citizens. It normally takes someone anywhere from 8 to 10 years to become a actual citizen of this country. They don't just get to come here and maybe stay on vacation for a couple of weeks and then they just automatically get citizenship. That's not how it works. And the reason why I wanted to close the border for 10 years is because it would give enough time to have individuals that did cross the border illegally to deport them. And that would be a mass deportation, and any children that were born here during that time and even going back 10 years would lose their citizenship in perpetuity because their parents have committed a crime. Right now, they keep telling us that the individuals that are crossing our borders in mass are migrants. They're not migrants, they are illegal individuals. They're not citizens. They are criminals. They have broken the law. And for our federal government to actually fund individuals that have broken the law, it's it's just strictly in violation of the Constitution, and it is treason. And that's what's happening to our country. And no one's standing up and talking about it because everybody needs to tote the party line. But my party is about constitutional sovereignty. We will follow the Constitution, and it will be our line in the sand. You're not going to come over here illegally and then take our resources as if you are entitled to them. You are not. You're not citizens. We have homeless veterans. We have homeless individuals of all races who cannot get a home. We have people right now on the verge of losing their homes because they don't have the assistance that they need. But yet we can, in some places like Chicago, give someone who is here illegally $7,000 a month so that they can have a place to live. And the other day I heard about the mayor of New York even, imploring citizens to open up their homes to illegal citizens, and they'll give those individuals money. Are you kidding me right now? You don't know who these people are. They've not been vetted. They could be complete criminals, and you invite them into your home, but we'll give you money. No, absolutely not.
And I didn't mean to
Absolutely
interrupt
not.
you, but what I think I'm hearing you say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're not saying don't come. Because there's some people on the Republican side that say, we don't want you here, period. You're saying, wait 10 years, go through the vetting process, become a legal citizen. I think that's what I hear you saying.
What I'm saying is there are people here who are on our books right now, let's just say, and if they've just applied for citizenship, it's going to take them 10 years
Okay,
to
so I
become
guess,
a
let me
citizen.
redirect my
I'm
question.
talking about people that are here now. I'm not talking about anybody that's just now coming over here.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
No.
make sure.
No.
Because, we had the Republican Party, like, we don't want it. We've ruined their countries, so that's why they're coming. And I think that's an important part of the discussion is we need to know why they're coming. Because we've literally messed up the entire, coastline from Mexico all the way down to South America. We've messed up the whole world. Let me backtrack that one. But I just wanted to make sure I was understanding what you were
Yes.
saying. Because I was
Yes.
like, because I don't think she's saying don't come. You're saying wait 10 years, give those people a chance to be vetted or
Yes.
go through the process, and then open up. Okay, got it.
Yes,
Just
because
want
it's
to.
really muddling the waters. And to that, there are individuals that are trying to justify the 14th Amendment with individuals that have crossed here illegally. And I'm like, that doesn't even apply to them. The 14th Amendment applies within slavery because they needed to make slavery, individuals that were slaves, citizens of this country because they weren't from here. They transported people in and just left them destitute. And we're like, well, we can't do that. We need to actually assist these individuals. So that's why we have the 14th Amendment. That was for slaves. That is not to be applied to people that have broken the law and have crossed our borders. That's not for them. Period.
And this doesn't matter whether it's a doctor from India or somebody that came through from Canada or they flown in and their visa has expired. You're talking about anybody. That's what I want to make sure.
You got to go home. You got to go home till we figure this out. You got to go home. Because
That's
let's
what.
say you came here. Let's say you came here legally. Let's just say to your point, your visa expires. Okay, fine. You're still going back to your country. There's not going to be any HB1 visas. There will be a moratorium on those also for 10 years.
Okay, that's where I was getting at. That's where I was getting
ma'am.
at.
Oh, it's shut. When I say it's shut down, shut down. That's it.
Okay. We just want to. Like I said, I want to make sure I'm on the same page as you are. Okay,
Yes.
so Parker has another question. So, do you believe that if a child is born in the United States from an illegal immigrant, then that child should not be allowed to have citizenship?
Exactly. No, they should not. Their parents have
Okay.
committed a crime. Period. And
Okay.
by proxy, I'm not saying that you're contributing to the delinquency of a minor. However, you came on here for under false pretenses because you're like, oh, well, if my child's born here, then my child's a citizen. Then that way I can attach myself to my child and I have to be here to support my. No, everybody goes home. Your child's not going to stay here. Nobody's going to adopt your child. You're going with your child. That whole thing that Trump did, separating families, was the worst thing he could have ever done. That was not the best thing to be done. Everybody should have went home together. Everybody's getting deported and they will not have citizenship and they will not be able to apply for citizenship since their parents decided to break the law. We have to be a nation of laws. We have to draw the line in the sand because if we keep compromising, that's the reason we're here right now. There's been constant compromise.
So, thank you for answering Parker's questions, and I'm sure Parker, if you have some more, just put them in the comment section. But there are some things I want to get to because a lot of things have happened since the
Okay.
last time we talked. Like you
Oh
said,
yeah.
I, I just want to know this from the audience. Is anybody else running for president of the United States? Just anybody. I mean, I'm like this field. I think this is the most people that have ever ran for president in my entire lifetime. It seems like there's a Republican coming out every day. Not
Yeah.
too many Democrats because they've closed their whole thing. They're just like, you're SOL. And there's a
Mhm.
ton of independents. What is
Yes.
what is special with the independents coming out? No, just the whole field. What is your challenge? How, and when I mean that, it's like, how do you get your name out there so people can say, oh, well, this lady is running, so why don't I talk to her?
Yeah, that's the challenge. The challenge is getting to the national stage. The challenge is getting to the debate stage. I recently finally got a campaign manager on my campaign. So it is definitely an uphill battle when you're an independent. And even I think if you're within either party, it's an uphill battle running for president. I want to say the paperwork is easy, but getting to the national stage is the difficult part. Getting the funding for your campaign. Those are the difficult challenges, but we all do have an opportunity, especially now with social media, and there's so many people that are online. And it's the good and bad. The good part is we have this outlet, we have this medium, and a lot of people have been disenchanted with linear television. But to that, it's still getting your name out there. It's still getting, the millions. I need to be in the millions of followers, not in the hundreds right now. So that's my driving force. And I care about this country and I'm going to keep pressing forward. There have been many people that have told me, no, you shouldn't run. You should wait. You shouldn't do this. And I'm like, you know what? God's put it on my heart. I'm going to see it through and whatever happens, happens, but I'm not going to stop because it's too important.
I have another. Well, I have a ton of questions, but
Okay.
I kind of want to play. Well, I don't want to play. I want to play a game, but I want to do kind of some what ifs,
Okay.
and that's where I take certain situations that I've noticed that have happened in the media, and I'll kind of talk about the way I see the duopoly responding to them. But then I want you to talk about how you would respond to it.
Okay.
And so the most recent one for anybody out there, if you've been living under a rug, the debt ceiling. It has been put off until 2025.
Mhm.
In my opinion, Joe Biden did not even have to negotiate, but for some reason thought he had to because deep down he's a Republican. But anyway, you had the Republicans that wanted to take away the social safety net. I have no idea what the Democrats wanted to do, but they conceded on a lot of points, and now we're going to have a situation where the student loan debt relief for $10,000 may go away. We're going to have a situation where millions of people in the social safety net may have
Mhm.
reduced benefits. How, and I think what's bothering me is both sides are selling it as a victory, but
Mhm.
again, it's the American people that are going to be, it's John Q. Public that's going to be suffering because
Yeah.
of this deal. How
Yeah.
how would you handle the debt ceiling crisis? Because I have my own feelings about this, but I want to hear exactly how you would deal with, because if you get when you get in office, you're not going to have a bunch of people from the redemption party with you. It'll most likely be you. I mean,
Yeah.
you would win, then you had to go through court cases because they're not just going to sit down and say, "Okay, we lost." They don't do that.
No.
They don't do that at all. So you're gonna have to fight
Never.
court cases, and then once you get there, you're not gonna have that redemption party
Mhm.
support. Is just going to be you. So how would you deal with the debt ceiling?
Yeah. Well, the thing about the debt ceiling is it's money that we've already spent. And so a lot of times people don't look at that part because they try to convolute the budget, which is future tense, right? and the debt ceiling. And so what McCarthy was doing, he was trying to negotiate the budget going forward, but try to, I guess, hold the debt ceiling hostage with it. Now, they went through this in 2013, which a lot of people weren't talking about. And I was really surprised. They kept going back to 2011. I was like, okay, well, in 2013, they did the same thing to Obama. And they didn't pass the debt ceiling till the following year in 2014. And they kicked the can down the road, and they actually put a measure in place called like no pay, no debt. So the lawmakers wouldn't get paid unless they came to some type of agreement on the debt ceiling. But what it allows them to do, it allows them to negotiate this all the way out, really till October of this year. Now, luckily, they've come to an agreement because in 2013, people were actually furloughed at their jobs. They actually didn't get paid from sometime in like September to October. And then they had to get back payments in November. And that affected our military. It affected Social Security. It affected people that were on aid or SNAP. So they're using it as a political football to get what they want. Now, had I been in charge, I would have fought a little bit harder for the Democrats to get the debt ceiling passed and say, you know, we're not going to convolute the negotiations of the budget with the debt ceiling because they don't go together. You've already spent this money. You need to raise the debt ceiling. And the reason why it went so high is because the past, 3 years, we're not under Corona right now. But when we went to when we're in the middle of the pandemic, they did all of the payouts, right? And they bailed out a lot of companies, and they, gave people like rebates and refunds in their taxes, and people weren't paying their rent at that time. Well, guess what? That bill comes due. So all of that money that was spent while Trump was in office, by the way, the Republicans know that they owe this money. And they constantly do this every single time that they have control of the House. They want to, first of all, take it from Social Security. They want to take it from people that get government assistance, people that are disabled, our veterans. They always want to take that money from there first, but then they want to raise the money that goes into our defense budgets. Why? Because they have donors that work for corporations, that get government contracts, that they want to make sure that they keep happy. It's a very nasty business, the government, but that's what they're doing. So I hope that answers your question.
Did, but here's the follow-up question. Because I felt like the president had two options. One, this is just me. I'm not negotiating with you. Like you said, this is a past debt. We said we were going to spend it. We spent it. Let's pay it. Let's move. He could have either, and I do want you to pick between these two. Either he could have just said, print the mint, which means tell the Treasury, hey, print some more money so we don't keep this situation. Or he could invoke the 14th Amendment where it says the national debt shall not be challenged.
Yeah.
He chose neither of those. And I'm wondering why I think I know why he didn't choose either of those. Because again, Joe Biden is a Republican undercover. Well, not even undercover. He's just flat out with it. But when you have options, like, when you're president, you're going to have options that the Constitution gives you.
Exactly.
Why not exercise those rights? They're yours. You have them. Constitution gave them to you. Okay, here they are. I'm holding a press conference and putting people behind me and saying, I'm using the 14th Amendment. I'll see you later. Goodbye. That's just how I would do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely in that instance, I would have just overrode and said, stop it. Stop.
Yeah, because like you said, you said it. This is we've already spent this. Yeah. It's already done. What are you doing?
Stop it. And the bad part about it is the Republicans still look horrible.
Oh, no.
Because they got nothing. They really got nothing. It's like you did all of this to still get nothing.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you. I think the Democrats look bad. Because again, Biden had a position he didn't have to negotiate at all. At all. Nothing. You know they're going to pass it. You know they're
Yeah.
going to pass it because they have too much in the stock. They have too much. Their donors are telling them, hey, pass it, pass it, pass it. So you know they're going to do it. But no, see that I think they're both showing us, which they've always shown me. But I think people are waking up to the fact of what these two parties are.
Yeah. Yeah. They really are.
And that's where I think your type of candidacy could make a really significant impact, which is why I wanted to do this show in the first place. Because I just think people are tired of being just lied to and just being like, you're literally lying. And I know you're lying, but you're telling me to vote for you because you're not the other guy. Okay.
But you are the other guy undercover, to your point.
Could you please repeat that? Could you repeat that one more time so everybody can hear what you just said?
They are the same party. They are the same person. But theater, right? The political theater has to make us believe that we are choosing. Because if you have the illusion of choice, you will always have the mindset of a winner and a loser. So you're given the illusion of choice when they're making all the backdoor deals. They are doing all of these things in the background to service themselves. Because if they were truly servicing the people, if they really cared, we wouldn't be in the debt that we're in right now. If they really cared, we wouldn't have this migration, issue. We wouldn't have all of this illegal activity going on if they really cared. They don't care because they know they're untouchable. And that's the problem. Our government, our federal government, is out of control. They're out of control. And it's time to honestly just tear it down and build it back up, because at this point, they've done too much. Do you know what I'm saying? There's just too much dirt. There's too much
you mean
dirt.
too much dirt? Because I was going to say they've done too much when? They haven't done it. Okay. You mean they're doing too much undercover. Got it.
It's too much. It's too much. Because it gets to a certain point where it's like, okay, you are really allowing illegal activity to go on and you're supporting it. So all of the buses, all of the trains, all of the flights that are flying all of these individuals over here that are illegal here, they're doing this under a government contract. They're using taxpayer dollars to fund all of this illegal activity. Really? And we're just supposed to sit back and go, okay, I guess we get to put up with this. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yep. And by the way, hello, Theus. I put up some of your comments, but you do have this question. He says the theater is real, but the two parties are not the same. No rational assessment of the current two parties would yield that determination. Both parties need to go, but they are not equal. Yeah, you know me and you discuss this all the time. I'm going to just disagree with you, but we're going to just agree to disagree. But the next situation that I want to talk about in this lovely game of what if you were president, or what happens when you become president, is a issue that I deeply care about. This is probably my number one issue. Number one, no doubt about it, and that's healthcare for everybody at no cost. Yeah. Now you have one president. Well, we only have one president, but we have a president of the United States that says if what I call Medicare for all gets to his desk, he'll veto it. Mm-hmm. You have the Republicans who basically Biden is siding with. What is your answer to the current medical care crisis that's facing this country?
I want medical to be at the state level. I want it out of the hands of the federal government. Okay. This way, when taxpayers actually pay their taxes, especially at the state level, that money can be used to fund the medical system. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, we don't want universal health care because we'll be like other places like Canada or Venezuela. Well, if you do it right and you take out the middlemen called the insurance companies, and doctors get paid directly for their services so they can just be doctors and not bureaucrats and not under the thumb of the pharmaceutical companies, which are also highly at fault because they also have their fingers within the government. You would actually have a better healthcare system because people would actually be healthy. They would go directly to their doctors. They would not have interference from pharmaceutical companies that just want them on medication to not kill them, but keep them alive long enough so they stay on their supply. They are the biggest drug dealers on the block. And then you've got doctors that are working with the pharmaceutical companies because the pharmaceutical companies give them kickbacks. So the more prescriptions they write, the more bonuses that they get. It is a nasty, nasty game. And as human beings, we should not be the product of pharmaceutical companies. We should not be, the product of insurance companies. Insurance is supposed to be in place so if you need it. But the insurance companies now, they actually are making determinations on what type of care people can get, what type of medication they can get because of the coverage that they have. Get rid of that middleman. That's billions of dollars. And guess what? Can be backed with people. And people can actually go see their doctors directly. And for
Okay.
those that can't afford it, can be supplemented. And then those who can, like I said, can pay for their health care. But if it's funded through the state, that will actually be a better healthcare system for the state. So if you live, I live in the state of Georgia, and I know that Stacey Abrams, she was pushing for a medical, statewide medical health care so that everybody could have it. It would give you more so a choice. So if you had a job and you didn't want to go with the healthcare plan through your job and you wanted to use the state-run healthcare, either one is good, but one might be a little bit better for you if you did the state because it's now it might be a little bit cheaper, but it's the same level of healthcare, and you have more options. But like I said, we would definitely have to get rid of the insurance companies because unfortunately that middleman is just siphoning off all the dollars, and that's what's making our healthcare so expensive.
Yep. Now Parker has another question that I was just about to ask. Shouldn't the federal government still help out the states that have less money, like Indiana, and wouldn't be able to afford health care for their citizens? I feel like some states don't have the budget for that.
Yes, and that's where the federal government can come in and assist. But what I don't want is I don't want a federally mandated managed healthcare, if that makes sense to everybody. I don't want the federal government managing it. I'd rather have the federal government support, to your point. Let's say Tennessee has more money than Ohio, right? We can supplement Ohio because, Tennessee, they're good. And that's what your senators are actually supposed to do. They say, okay, we need more money for this program, or we need funds for that program. And so when they put together that budget isn't just for things at the federal level, they are actually for things at the state level. That's why those representatives are there. They are there to represent their state, to bring those funds back to their state so that each state is functioning properly. That's their job.
Yep. And Theus has a question. Imagine you live in Florida, Alabama, Texas, or Tennessee and are black, poor, or queer. What type of state-run healthcare will you get?
Well, it would depend on your state, right? I can't say what the healthcare would be in Alabama because I don't live there. I don't live in Tennessee. But what I can say is that you can have, I guess, an agreement with your state because right now they do have Medicare. They do have, I call it Medicaid because that's what they call it in California, which is the managed healthcare system. And here in Georgia, they call it Peach Care. So if I'm here in Georgia and it's Peach Care, and it's just a little bit of supplement that I need to pay out of my pocket to match what the state can give me and provide for me, okay. Or I may be financially not able to do that and I'm under the poverty limit where then it would be at no cost to me. And I know that there have been times when people have actually, unfortunately quit their jobs because they couldn't afford their medical care. So they sacrificed being employed so they could get on state assistance in order to get the medical treatment that they need. And that should never be. Medical care should never be out of reach of anybody, whether you can afford it or whether you can't afford it.
Yep. And before I get to the next question, everybody, thank you for your participation, but I want to remind you to subscribe. Our goal is 1,000 before December. We are at 115. Just subscribe. Thank you very much. So the next issue I want to talk about is another issue that, again, it rings close to my heart. Um, is our rising number of, I don't know if they call them AR-15s or
Mhm.
I don't know,
The
weapons
gun.
that should, yes, they shouldn't be in the hands of regular citizens, um, but they are. And the rising gun violence in this country. Now, I know every state has its own laws. Some states, like Indiana, have very lax gun laws where basically once you hit 13, it doesn't matter. You can get a gun, no background check, no anything. Other states like Illinois, they have more stringent gun laws. What would be your priority in terms of gun laws? Would you let the states decide it, or would you take a federal approach in that?
Well, what I would like to see is that people have to get a gun license, not just, I guess, in different states, they get a permit, right? I would rather individuals have to get a license, just like you have to have a license for a car, because a car unfortunately can be a weapon. If you don't drive it correctly, you can injure another person, and you have to have a license to drive. You actually have to go through a course. You actually have to say, okay, I have, been certified and licensed. I know how to carry this weapon. I know how to secure it. I know how to put the safety on it. I understand that I cannot just walk around with it in my pocket, flailing around. And if it drops and shoots somebody, injures somebody, oh well. There has to be more gun education. And I think that's where we've lost in this country. We've allowed people to carry guns without the education, without the respect for human life. There's been a complete lack of respect for humanity. A lot of people want to blame it on guns, other people want to blame it on medication, and it might be a combination of both, but we still need to get back to the education of guns. Everybody is not qualified to carry a gun. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? And that's just my model. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can have and carry a gun under a Second Amendment, yes. But should you be carrying that weapon? Are you in the right frame of mind? When someone goes to a gun show and they can just buy a gun because they want one, do we know if that person is going to use that gun in a vengeful manner? Do we know if they're in the right frame of mind to carry that weapon? No, because there's no actual accountability to that weapon. We're not saying, okay, you can purchase this weapon, but you're going to have to go through a course. So if you want to go to a gun show, you're probably going to have to go through maybe a 4-hour course and then wait the next day before you can actually physically get that gun. You're not going to be able to just go in, pay your $300, get the gun and walk out. No, we can't do that. And with the AR-15s and the AK-47s and all these other semi-automatic weapons that we have that they do use in our military, okay, again, we've got the Second Amendment. I understand that. I understand that people have the right to bear arms. But why are we using weapons like this in a civil society? Who are you waiting for? Like, who is really coming to get you? And like I said, I know why we have them. So in the event that our government gets completely out of control, we can defend ourselves against everybody, right? You're just your individual safety. But at the same time, again, these weapons aren't being used properly. So we have to get back to education.
Okay, and Marlon came in and told us to do what I forgot to tell y'all to do is hit that like button. And please share this on all your social media platforms. We are having a great time with our guest today. Finally got a guest after all these weeks, and I'm so glad to get back into my interviewing state of mind. But the um, next issue that I wanted to talk about is you mentioned AK-47s and AR-15s, and how they're militarized weapons that really shouldn't be in the hands of the general public. And so I'm wondering, what is your stance on police funding? And do you believe that that should be a federal thing that the federal government issues, or do you believe that that should be a state issue?
Well, the funding should definitely be disseminated to the states. Again, when states need federal funding to supplement their state, that's the tax flow through that we have with the federal government. But I know just here in Georgia that they've been trying to implement different programs, and they need the funding for it, so that if there's somebody who's having a mental crisis, we're not sending a gun to somebody who may be having a manic episode, right? But to that, officers need training. To that, you need a whole separate division, and that takes dollars, because you can't take your current staff that you have and split them apart, because you're already strapped tight with the staff that you do have. So yeah, some of that federal funding would need to come from the government, but I do not want a government mandate for policing, because policing is different everywhere. In some places you need it more than others. But again, I think the real encouragement, I would say, for police officers and for mayors of towns that have police under them is to really look at having a mental crisis division along with just a regular police task force, because a gun should not be brought when somebody's having a manic episode and they may have a meltdown, and they may have PTSD, they may have bipolar disorder. We don't know everything that people are going through. But when you bring somebody to a situation like that with a gun and they feel that their lives are threatened, this is how people end up killed and shot in situations where a gun doesn't need to be there. Violence is the last thing that needs to be in a heightened emotional situation. They need to be brought down, and a professional needs to be brought in there. But to that point, now we need more medical doctors pretty much that are going to be servicing as police officers, right? To help assist and counsel people through situations, like I said, as opposed to bringing a gun. And they have tasers, so I don't know why tasers don't work.
I was about to say, don't they you said it before I did. I was like, I think they have tasers.
We've got tasers, we've got pepper spray. I mean, we have
non-gun
or guns don't always have to be your first option. You don't always have to drag somebody out of their car. That is not the first option. There are options.
Yeah, it seems like that's the way they're trained, but I'm going to totally change this up and go to another thing that I hear people talk about, and I don't know how I feel about it. Okay. I'd like to say I know how I feel about it, but I'm always kind of back and forth on this one. Taxes. Now, nobody ideally wants to pay taxes, but I've always told people, if you want your roads built, you want your street lights to work, if you want, policing, teachers, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, that money just doesn't, it doesn't come from the air.
Right.
And the way our tax system is structured, we tax the lower half of society. We tax the poor, we tax the elderly, we tax the veterans. But somehow we forget about those 1% earners that are earning, like they have billions of dollars to just, I'm not saying I
they're
wish
not forgotten about.
Yeah,
they're taken care of.
They're taken care of. That's it. They seem to be taken care of. How would your because if you're talking about a tax bill, it has to go through Congress. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to tax people making over $5 million. You're going to pay this much in taxes. It has to go through Congress, and I mean both House and Senate. Yeah. So, two-part question. What type of tax? I'm okay. Do you support taxing the upper earning echelon? If you
Okay.
do, what rate? How would you get Congress to buy into this? Those are the three.
Right. What I would like is a fair tax where there would be a 16% tax at the federal level and a maybe 6 to 7% tax at the state level. That would be an overall 23% taxation, and that should keep the funding of our government and also assist in bringing down our deficit. So a lot of people go, with that's a lot of tax for somebody who is under the poverty level. Well, in those instances, you can actually supplement those individuals with like a tax credit, so to speak, so that they can pay taxes. And it would only be for goods and services, not for food. So you would be looking at, okay, if somebody buys a yacht, right, they're going to pay 16% tax on that yacht, and that's going to go towards the federal government. And that's where we can start seeing individuals that are making these billions and billions of dollars actually get taxed and not do the loopholes. Because right now, as it stands, they once you make over a certain threshold, like when I was going to school to learn how to be an accountant, and this is what kind of discouraged me, I took tax accounting and I found out that people that made over $1 million, they actually don't pay taxes and they are able to actually write everything off, even if they're not a business entity, because they make over a certain threshold. And that's the problem in this country. They give all of the write-offs to the people that can afford it, and they tax the people that are right in the middle class. And then that burden then falls to people that are under the poverty limit. Because if you make under a certain amount, you do get a rebate at the end of the year, but it's trying to make it through the year with the little bit of money that you do have. And that shouldn't be. We have a very prosperous country, and it's like everybody should be taxed equally. But guess what? The people that are at the very bottom, because they're going to start doing a little bit better and they're not always going to be in poverty, they're going to start to be able to flourish because the people that should be paying taxes are actually paying their fair share.
And we've got another question from Theus who wants to know, fix the corruption in your fix the tax system. As president, how would you address congressional and executive branches corruption? That is a good question. Thank you for asking.
Okay. I've not wanted to put this out there, but I got to put it out there. I want to say we need to incorporate the RICO Act on our Congress because of what they've been doing and what's been happening. But it couldn't just be Congress. It's going to have to be the DOJ. It's going to have to be the CIA, the NSA. It's like all the alphabet companies and agencies that we have, including the IRS as well.
And explain the RICO Act, please.
It is the racketeering. Okay, let me look it up really quick because it's a nice little acronym that we have in our federal government, and it was pretty much put in place because we had mobsters back in the 20s. And it's Racketeering, Influence, and Corruption Organizations Act. It was for organized crime. And it was put in place so that the FBI had an actual method to go after those that were committing crimes, those who were, paying off police officers and judges and different people in their communities so they could get away with said crimes and muscle, innocent individuals out of their money, right? So they weren't going after the corner store grocer and saying, okay, you've got to give us, $200 this week. And, just committing all these crimes everywhere. They were actually able to put together this RICO Act and go after these individuals that were committing crimes. I would use that same RICO Act against our individuals, our congressmen and women that are right now committing crimes. The bills that they are writing and they are passing are criminal because they go against our Constitution. They are not in alignment with our Constitution. We're well beyond treason. We're in RICO right now. And it's just a matter of actually implementing it and holding people accountable, not by the DOJ, because the DOJ is corrupt as well. We would have to do this by a military tribunal, and we would have to do it just the way they did the Nuremberg trials. People would have to be literally put on trial by a nonpartisan group that we know is not paid off. And it would have to be our military branch, because that would be our last resort to really get people held accountable for what they're doing.
And speaking of the military, here comes my next one.
So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. You're a little bit blurry. I don't know why. Okay, now I can see you. I might need to put on my glasses. Military spending.
Yeah.
The Pentagon, there have been reports that the Pentagon has lost, and I don't, if I'm getting this wrong, audience, correct me. I believe it was $1 trillion that they somehow just misplaced it. They don't know what happened to. Personally, me, I lose $5, I'm turning over my entire house. That's me. But I'm wondering, in this culture of like there's never been. I mean, I know I've had them on my show. Candidates run for president say, I want to cut military spending. But somehow we've been fooled in, if you say you cut military spending, that's cutting it for soldiers. And most of the money that we spend for military spending doesn't even go to soldiers. So one, my question would be, one, are you in favor of cutting military spending? Two, if you are, what mechanism would you, those are two. If you're in favor of it, what mechanism would you use to cut that budget?
I would be looking to cut the Pentagon's budget, which is, to your point, it is separate from the military and defense budget. So you actually have 3 different budgets. You've got your military, you've got your Defense Department, then you've got the Pentagon, right? And a lot of money is literally being laundered. So that $1 trillion, it's not lost. Somebody knows exactly where it is. And it was probably, unfortunately, sent out of the country so that it's a hidden asset, or they're hiding the assets within government contracts. So the money is not gone. It's not lost. It may not even be spent, portioned, and not necessarily commissioned. So they can say, oh, we lost track of this. No, you didn't. You didn't lose track of anything. But the majority of our money goes there, unfortunately. And it's usually, like I said, it's the Defense Department and it's the Pentagon as a slush fund, because that's the way they're able to siphon off money. I would definitely stop that and really look at, okay, do we need these things? And who is this money actually going to? Because as the president, it is your job to supervise the military. The Pentagon, that's your job. The Defense Department, that's your job. Like those 3 branches right there, that is what the executive office and the executive administration has to manage and handle and make sure is in order. And just these past few years, probably decades, and there's always a plan behind it. That's where they've been siphoning off the money from the American people. Can you imagine what $1 trillion would do to our country right now? Really? We wouldn't have homeless people. There wouldn't be anybody broken down. We wouldn't have the debt that we're in right now. So the money is always somewhere. It's just where they're spending it and where they're hiding it on purpose. There's always a back channel answer to it.
And I think the last time we talked, I asked you, what are you looking for in a vice president? And you answered that question. But now I'm going to change up the question just a little bit and ask, what are you looking at in terms of cabinet members?
Cabinet members, definitely, it's interesting because I'm seeing people that are in the field right now, and I really don't see a lot of current candidates that I would want in my cabinet, but definitely I'm still looking. I'm still thinking about it. I know people I want to go after. That's the bad part. Like I know who I want fired, right? I don't know who I want to necessarily replace them with right now, but I definitely know who I want fired.
And you know those cap. And the reason I ask about the cabinet is those are there are some cabinet positions that are very critical to the way our country runs itself. Especially, you know,
Yes.
I can't even think of the one that deals with healthcare. Oh my goodness, I cannot think of what
The
that
health
position is
the
called.
health secretary. Yeah, that
Thank you.
person.
Oh my goodness, human
Yeah,
health.
the
Oh
assistant health
yes, that's it.
secretary and the current health
HHCS.
secretary. I both
Thank
want them
you.
both arrested. Yeah,
Yes, I was like, wait a minute, I know what
yeah.
it's called. Let's see.
I want both of them arrested and put in jail for
Oh
what they're doing
yeah,
currently. They gotta go.
yeah.
Like I
Here's
said,
a
I know who I want to fire. I just gotta have people that
you have to
to replace.
replace them. If you fire them, you have to replace them because that would be
Mm,
your job and your team's job. But
yes,
my
I know. And
number,
I
no,
gotta.
I'm
Somebody
like,
else has got to do the job. I know. But there are some good doctors out there. There's Dr. Simone Gold. That's one doctor I definitely would like. Dr. McDougall, Dr. Oh my goodness, he's got his own show. But yeah, those are the top two that I can think of
do
right
you
now
mean
that I
Dr.
would like to
Oz?
see actual doctor.
Yeah, Dr. Oz is an actual
Not
doctor. He's
Dr.
very
Oz.
ill.
No,
Okay, I
not
was gonna
Dr.
say, does she
Oz.
mean not?
I'm
Because you said
thinking
he's got his
it's a
own show. I'm like,
different.
well, he's got.
No.
Okay, so the next question comes from Theus again. So we had a surplus before. What would you believe any savings would go to? And you got to pick between one, the homeless or poor. I don't think he's saying you can pick both.
Well, here's the thing with yeah, with so here's the thing with a lot of the programs that gets lost in the sauce, so to speak. So you have a lot of 501c3 programs that are out there, and what I've learned about some of these programs is they get the funding, they get the program that they're championing, right? So if they say, okay, we're championing for the homeless, they only have to spend 25% of $1 million. And I know $250,000 is a lot, but $750,000 is what should be going
Oh, I'm sorry. I
to
misinterpreted his question. The way I
these
interpreted it was wrong. You can't pick both. Sorry.
programs. And so what it is, that's what needs to change. That's what needs to change. The amount of money that's actually going towards the programs, we need to make sure that it's actually getting to the people because it's getting to the agency, whatever agency wins the government contract, but it's not getting to the people that they're championing it for. They're saying, we need this money for the homeless, but the money's not getting there. You say, we need this money, for housing, but the money's not getting there. I think TD Jakes just got like $1 billion grant to build homes and do all these things. And I was talking about it on a Twitter space a couple weeks back. And I said, I highly doubt if the majority of the money goes towards actually building houses. Like I'm telling you, only 25% of it will go, but the other 75% of it's not going to go the way the contract's written. They only have to use 25% of the money that they're given towards the
So if
actual program that they are fighting for. It's
so if I'm hearing you right, you're talking about just rewriting the contracts where you're saying more of the money needs to go what you're actually
Mhm.
advocating for. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. And there has to be more accountability. Like if you're saying, hey, we've got 10,000 homeless people, are you worried about the nonprofits, not government to like fight flies because dragons are too scary? What I'm saying is government contracts can be designated and rewritten and held, and people can be held accountable. You can't just say, okay, we're just going to let people, get away with all this stuff. It's like, no, they can be held accountable to those contracts and actually have someone supervising it and saying, okay, we're going to get this done. Like I know Ben Carson, he was over the HUD, the housing and urban development for the short time while he was with Trump's administration and getting things handled. Unfortunately, because of the way everything was set up and he wasn't given the powers that he needed to get, people were able to push him out and he wasn't able to get as much done as he wanted to get done. So it's really one of those measures. It is a top down measure. It's not a bottom up measure because the contracts you have to be held accountable for the contracts that you're going to get grants for.
Yep. So, boy, I can't believe we're at 55 minutes. Okay, so let me get to my next question. And I really want to get to this one because what wait a minute, we got a Ben Carson was busted for corruption. Um
Oh,
oh
not good.
um
Not bad.
um
That's bad. Sorry. Look, and he might have got caught up in the contracts too,
yeah.
unfortunately.
So I want to ask about a specific question, and this has to do with international relations. Um the two largest superpowers, China and the United States, and the fight over Taiwan slash Russia slash Ukraine. How do you go about your relations with a China that has definitely they have more people. They have equal resources. They don't have as large as a military as we do, but they're not number two for a reason. And I'm thinking we might be number two and they might be number one, but I'm not sure about that. But how do you go about establishing a relationship with another superpower?
Well, I think we definitely have to look at the fact that we need to draw that line in the sand that our people are free and our people are not going to be slaves. That we are not going to go along with having a social credit score here in this country. We're not going to monitor our people. We're not going to make our people slaves over here. If you want your people to be slaves under your country, that's fine. But that's not going to happen over here. We definitely need to focus on having more of our domestic product that we make as far as Taiwan, because I know that they are encroaching upon Taiwan because they develop the chips and manufacture chips for cars and different products that we have. We have to start developing a lot of those chips here in the United States. And we need to stop outsourcing everything because right now we are becoming a service country. We're not a manufacturing company the way we were because we outsourced everything because it was cheaper to make other places. But then we import the very things that we've outsourced. And so that's why we live under such a great expense that we do. We don't make things. We have to build up our manufacturing. We have to build up our own infrastructure. And that will just have to be a commitment that we make with China. It's like, okay, we're going to build up our people. You're building up your people. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to have an unfair trade. We're going to have a fair trade. So if you want to work with us, you're going to work with us. And it's not, you can't back down to China because they want to rule. I've heard a lot of our officials, government officials saying China's a great model. No, they're not. They treat their people like slaves. They starve their people. They organ harvest on their own people. It's a disgusting place. Why do you think so many people are fleeing from China? Why are they fleeing from China? China's so great. China's so awesome. It's not. It's not. They kill dissidents. They kill Christians. They kill people that don't do what they want them to do. If you're not going to be a slave to China, they will disappear you. And these are facts. If you want to treat your people like that, that's fine. You're not going to do that here. And that's just the agreement we have to have. As far as dealing with Ukraine, that's our men out of there because this is not going to be another Vietnam on our hands. The money that has been spent over there needs to be accounted for. We need to account for all the money that has been spent there. I would love to get that money back into our coffers so that we can actually take care of our people, because it's very difficult to have a conversation and you say, oh yeah, we're having such a hard time over here, and you're sending billions of dollars to another country and trying to take care of their people when you should be taking care of home first. So hope that answers the question.
That definitely answers the question. And oh my goodness, it's been a whole hour. I thought this was going to be 45 minutes. See, I always say 45 minutes and I always go past. And I don't want to keep you past your time because I said, I'm going to try to keep this quick. See how I do? I'm not a liar, everybody, but like I've got so many questions I want to ask, but I won't do that. I will ask one final question. Tell us again how we can find you and support your campaign.
Yes. You can reach me at www.nichols4president.com or Nichols, the number 4president.org. And also, we can be reached at the Redemption Party, which is www.redemption-party.com. All donations are accepted, whether it's $1, $5, $20. Nothing's too small, nothing's too large. On the let's see, the Nichols4president.com site, we do have a section where you can buy T-shirts, hats, yard signs. All of those funds actually go towards the campaign as well. And I am starting my own podcast. So, Tracy, I'm going to have you on my podcast so I can ask you questions and be a guest. And the name of my podcast is Unfiltered Vision. And I usually try to drop, a few times a week, whether they're 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 30 minutes. And so that is going to be my contribution as well. And it's another way to get the word out about my campaign and also to just let people hear my perspective on things. But it's Unfiltered Vision, Ashaki's presidential perspective.
Well, I'll just wait on the invitation. Because I don't think I'm a guest on too many people's podcasts. That's something I don't get asked a lot, but certainly be glad to do it. So everybody, I want to thank everybody, especially to the people who dropped comments in. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you happen to
Yes.
watch this video after the conversation, please drop your questions in, because what I'll do is I'll email the campaign and say, hey, this person had this question. Go back to the video and watch it, and you can respond there. Remember to subscribe. You're at 115. 1,000 is our goal. Like this video, share this video, comment on this video. We will have another guest next week. I'll see you all then. Have a great evening. Thank you all for joining. Have a great day. Bye bye.